Welcome to the fourth part of our 3D avatar builder. In this episode, we will add color customization to our different assets, skin, hair, clothes, and we will take some time to polish a bit the UI while adding a randomize button feature. What we will want to achieve is here on top of different categories that can change colors, to have some bubbles to allow us to switch between them. To have different type of colors and to not store them in our code, we will again use Pocket-based our database. Because, for example, the color of the skin, we don't want to have the same choice of colors than the one for the hair or for the clothes. We will create a new collection. We name it Customization Palettes, and it will contain the following fields: a name, which will be a plain text, and colors, that will be a JSON array for simplicity. Colors and create. Let's create the first one. We'll name it skin, and here we need to add a JSON array of the different possible colors. I asked ChatGPT to help me on that, and then I customized it myself, but I ended up with those colors. Of course, you can customize to what you like. And then another one for the hair or eyebrows. We'll name it hair, and the list of possible colors. Then create, and a last one for the different clothes and accessories. Let's name it clothes, and our list of colors. Then create. Then what we will want to do is on our groups to assign a palette. We will change the structure of the groups and add a new field. So this one, it will be a relation, like starting asset, but it will be color palette. The collection is the one that we just created. And the relation is of type single, because for one group, there is only one palette. Then save changes, and then you can assign on the different categories the palette that you want to use. So for example, the head, this is the one where we will want to be able to change the skin color. So the palette we choose is skin, set selection, and save changes behind my face. Then for the hair, it will be the hair one. For the face, we don't have yet. The eyes, we won't be able to change the eyes color. They are all black for now. And eyebrows, usually it will follow the hair color, but not every time. But still, we will have the choice between the color of the hair. Nose, we won't change the color here. Facial hair, you can also use the hair color. Glasses, hat, it will be the cloth color, but for now, we don't have assets. So just let's make it on top. So clothes, bottom, the same one, and on the shoes. Perfect. Now save changes. Now let's get back to our code where we fetch the categories at the very beginning, and we can log the categories to see if we have the details of those palette of color. If we have a look at the content of our categories, for example, the first one is the head. So we should see the skin color. We can see color palette, and we have the ID of the palette. But this time we won't do like we did with the assets and to load them and to assign them manually. Instead, we will use a feature to have the detail of a linked collection. In Pocket-based, if you go to API preview, you have an example here with the expand, which is to get the relation content. Let's try it on our category. We add color palette expand. But if we retry, we don't have any new value. This is because, like what we did on the assets and the groups, we need to define the permissions on the palettes. Currently, if I go to Edit Collection and API Rules, everything requires us to be logged in. So let's unlock at least the list and the view, then save changes. Now let's reload. Let's see what we have in categories. We have a new property, expand, which contain color palette, which contain the detail of the relation. Here we have the name, skin, and the colors array with all the colors that we would want to display in our UI. Before adding them to our UI, we need to do a few things. So when we go through each category. What we can do is on customization to set the color to the first one from our palette. Now, instead of assigning an empty object, we will assign a color that will be equal to the object we have in color palette, the first color, if we have one. If we don't, we put an empty string. And to be able to change the color in our UI component, what we will do is define an update color method that will take the color as a parameter and that will update it on the current category. So we'll get access to the previous state, and on our customization object, we will copy the previous value, and on our current category, we will copy the previous value, but for the color, we will take the one that is coming from a parameter. Our store should be good. We can go to the UI to prepare it. First of all, let's spend some time to enhance it at least a little. We won't have the final version, but it will be better. I will start by adding a font. So I go to Google Fonts. I search for Poppins. This is the one that I will use, but you have the choice between many fonts that you can use. And add it by choosing the different font weights. I have regular and bold. And once you have picked them, click on Get Embed Code. So you can see here the different one that I choose. I will pick the @import and copy that line. Then inside our CSS, on top of the file, before Tailwind import, I will import the font. So you can see the different font weight. Perfect. Now head to Tailwind config and we will change the theme to add the font family for the sans ones. We will add Poppins, and if it doesn't load it, we will fall back to sans serif. The difference is subtle, but you can see that our font is updated. Currently, you can see that our list of categories and assets is not responsive, so let's fix it. On the main UI component, we can remove the default padding because we want to stick the bottom box to the bottom. And let's add select none. So when we move the camera, it won't select text. Because we removed the padding from the main container, let's add it to the top bar here. And let's add a padding horizontally for the bottom box. We can also remove the gap here. We will change how it is rounded. So we only want the top. So T, and then how rounded we want it to be. I will switch to large. And I will change the white background to a gradient using a dark scheme instead of a light scheme. Here is what we have so far. I will adjust some spacing and adjust a bit the button. Okay, now it's better, but we have this white scroll bar below. Let's hide it. There is no default class with Tailwind, so we need to create our custom one. Let's name it no scroll bar. And by searching online, you will find those properties to hide the scroll bar. Now, it is still scrollable, but we don't have the scroll bar. Let's take care of those boxes here. We can add the padding X here, change a bit the styling, and for the image to be scaled perfectly, we'll add those class object cover and the image to take the full width and height. Here is what we now have. So we can switch and it's looking way better. Time to add the colors when they are available. In the main UI component, next to asset box, we will add a color picker. So first we need to check the current category and customization if we have colors to display. So if we have colors, and also if we are currently on an asset, because sometimes we are on nothing, so we don't want to color when no asset is selected, then we will display our color picker. Let's create our color picker. We will need access to the update color function that we prepared in our store. Then the current category, and we will create a method when we click on the button to call our update color. Actually, we could call it directly. Then we get the customization from the store and we have everything to display the colors. First, we check that we currently have an asset. If we don't, we return nothing. But if we are in the good state to display colors, we will return a box with a transparent background, the backdrop blur, and the scrollable content. Then we loop through all the different colors, and for each we will create a button that will contain our color. So the key will be the index of the color and the color code, so the hexadecimal code. We add some styling to it. If it's the one selected, we will add a white border, and on click, we will call the handle color change. And inside the button, we'll have the small bubble. Let's see what we have. We have those colors. For the head, it's only skin colors. For the hair, we have the choice between all those colors. You can see we have the scroll bar here. For the hair, you can see that I chose colors that are mostly common for hairs. Then I accepted more fancy colors. And then for the clothes, you have all of those colors. But currently, if we change the color, it doesn't apply to our materials. Just before implementing the logic, if you don't like this color picker that is handmade, or if you want to give more control to the user, you can use the React color library. So you have all these color pickers at disposal, and you will get an event when you change the color, whatever picker you choose. Let's handle the change of color on our asset. So inside our asset component, first we will need to access our color. So we get the customization object from our store, and we declare a variable asset color that is getting the current color from our category name based on our asset. So we'll pass it as a parameter, and inside avatar, we need to pass the data. So go back where we do the mapping, and the category name is equal to the key, because remember, the customization object contains a key for each category. Now inside our asset, we have access to the asset color. So what we do is in a use effect that will be triggered when the asset color change and when our scene is loaded, we will iterate through our scene with traverse, and if it is a mesh, and if the material name is color underscore something. This is the naming convention we decided with cursors to know it's something that we can change the color. If it is the case, then on our material, we will set the color to asset color. Let's try it, and you will see it doesn't work. It's because the head is for the skin. We'll do it right after. But let's try, for example, on the hair. You can see that the default color was the first one. It applied it correctly. And we can use any color. Let's try on the top. Now it's white because it's the first color in our palette. Feel free to use a different setting. And you can change the colors of your clothes. Perfect. Now let's dive into the skin color. First of all, remember what we said earlier. The skin is the same on the head, but it's also on a separate mesh, but we want to use the same material on the arm parts here and on the legs when you have a short. So a good optimization is to reuse the same material. To do this, we will create our material directly inside our store. Let's name it skin. It will be a new mesh standard material from Three. And because you create it manually, be sure that you use the right parameter that you want for the skin. Let's choose a color and the roughness. I will be using 1, so it's not a shiny skin. Now we need a separate method than update color. It will be update skin. It takes the new color, and because it's not a set, we need to get the current skin. So we use get.skin to access our skin here. And on the color of the material, we'll use set with the new color code. Now let's go to our update color. And if we see that the current category is the head, so this is hard-coded, but it's the simplest solution to do it. We could also do it in database. If this is the case, then we will also call update skin with the color. We need one last thing is to assign that new material to our asset. Let's go to asset and we get access to the skin. So we get it from our store. And now inside attach items, currently we were using the material every time that we get from our file. But now we need to add another check. If the name starts with skin, well, if it contains it, instead of using child.material, we will be using the skin material. If not, we just use the one from our asset. Let's try it. And it's not working. Let's see if we have an exception. And I forgot to import get. To have access to the get with Zustand, it's when you do the create. The first one is set, the first parameter. but you can also have get as the second parameter. Let's try it. And you can see the color of our character change. Perfect. But you can see if I reload, it's not the same color. So the simplest way here is to take from your palette the first color and to use it as the starting color from this material. Or you could apply it at the loading. Okay, now the starting color is the same. Perfect. Currently, by default, we defined the use of the third eyebrow, but sometimes there are assets that you want to be optional. To make it easily, let's go to our customization groups and let's add a boolean, so bool, and removable. By default, it will be false. We can save changes. And let's say for the eyebrows, it will be true. You can not have eyebrows. And we'll also remove the starting asset. Save changes. If we reload, we don't have eyebrows anymore. But if we select one, then we are stuck. We can't get rid of it. You have two options, either in the UI component, if it is currently the asset that you are using, so it's not here, this is in our asset box. If it is in the current asset, you would set null. But instead, before our asset, I will add a button to remove it. So I will just copy paste the button. We will make it only if our item is removable. So if it is inside a category that is removable. So here, the condition to check if it is the current one, it is not if it's the right asset, but it's if we don't have an asset. And because we don't have an asset, we can't display an image. Instead, we will display a black box with an icon. For the icons, I recommend you HeroIcons. You can search for X and you will have the X mark. You can copy the JSX. This is what I did here. Hit save. And we need to change our onClick. So for our category, we will set null. And we also need to remove the key because we are not iterating through all our assets like here. Okay, let's try it. Eyebrows, so we don't have one, it's highlighted. We can choose between different, change the colors, change the 3D model from our eyebrow. And if we click here, it's removing it and we don't have the colors anymore too. To make the life easier for our users, instead of going one by one, choosing colors, choosing assets and colors, let's add a randomize button on the top. To make it quickly, search for the download button and duplicate randomize button. We'll call a randomize function we will prepare in our store. And instead of displaying text, we will display an icon. Choose the one you want on HeroIcon or elsewhere. I will search for arrow and take this one. Replace it, save it, and where we have our download button, where we use it, we need to add our randomize button. But as we are spacing items, it will break our layout. Let's wrap them inside a container. A flex one, items center, and a gap of 2 to space the buttons. Okay, perfect. Now both of them are on the top right. Let's style them a bit, add a shadow, and also on the random button. Now they are more visible on the top right. We need to code the logic for our random button. Let's go to the store. Below everything, we add a randomize function. What we do is we create a new customization object starting from scratch because we will randomize every part. Then we loop through all the different categories and we find a random asset. It will be equal to the assets of our category of a random number belonging to the array of assets. So from 0 to the number of assets inside our category. Then we do the same for the color. We check if it has a palette. Then we take a color inside that palette. And then on our customization object, we'll assign the random asset and the random color. And if ever this is the head, then we will need to update the skin as well. After we loop through all categories, we just return our new customization where we set it. Okay, now let's try it. We randomize and we have different variations. Some are very interesting, but some might look good at the very beginning. But there is something we didn't take into account is the removable item. So currently we always will have eyebrows. We can add the check after a random asset. If our category is removable, then we will generate a random number between the number of assets. So the probability stay correct. And if it is equal to 0, we'll set the random asset to null, so we won't have it. And because we change our const, we now need a let variable. Let's try it. Here, we don't have eyebrows. We have an issue with one of the model, but it's not a big deal. We'll update it later. But now if we randomize, sometimes we don't have eyebrows. Thank you for watching. The next video will be mainly on the 3D editing software Blender. We will see how to create a simple 3D model and prepare it to be usable in our configurator. We will also learn how to generate the thumbnails of our assets. To continue the journey with me and build your own 3D avatar configurator, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified when the next part is released. See you in the next video.